right, so we are about just 30 seconds here from going on the whole YouTube thing, and yeah. All right, let's get the YouTube started. Hey everybody, we're kicking off a brand new week here on Spaced Out Radio, and I gotta say, looking at this week's schedule, I don't think I'm going to be kicking anybody off. I don't know if you saw that mess on Friday night, but I know our guest is sober tonight. So that's always a good start, and I know he's much more pro, so we're going to have some fun. Hey, a couple of quick announcements here. I, over the weekend, eliminated 1 minute each from each commercial break, so the commercial breaks have been cut down by 1 minute each, so that'll provide for a little bit more programming for all of you, and yeah. Getting there. I'm almost caught up from all my chores that I need to do, and getting the commercials figured out was a big one. So, yeah. As far as Saturday nights go, I know a lot of people have been asking me, what are we going to be doing for the Saturday night show? I haven't found a host yet that I want to bring in, and right now with working the two jobs and everything, the daytime job and then coming in nightcap in here, I don't have a lot of energy to train someone right now. So I do apologize about that. So it'll be in replay mode on Saturdays for the time being. Could be a while, could be forever, could be until the right person walks in there and says, hey, I want that gig. So we'll keep an eye open on that. Let's give a shout out to everybody who is here so far. We got Waylon. Thanks for coming in, Mr. Bama. Beautiful Jules. Nice to see you. Science Bob and his cape. Always a pleasure. Michael Leger, thanks for coming back, man. Carrie Ann in Central PA, welcome to the Spaced Out Radio chat room. Appreciate that. BG's down in Australia. How's tomorrow looking? I hope I'm alive. Let us know. All right. If I made it to tomorrow, I would appreciate that. Hey, Ghost66, welcome to Spaced Out Radio. Philip Matlock, good to have you back. Same as you. Lord of Land, welcome back. Brett Lewis, appreciate you coming on in. BG's kicking off the super chat tonight. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Spookles the Cat, who now runs our brand new Instagram page. So before it was just my Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. We now have an Instagram page just for the show at Spaced Out Radio Show. So make sure you follow that. We'd really appreciate that. Thank you. And who else we got here? I know we have Michael Boyle. Yes, that was a good tweet about Edgar Mitchell and the Wilson documents. I fully agree with you on that one. Middle Child, good to have you here. The Goots, Gutter Gawker, welcome back, my friend. Welcome back. Always appreciate you. Justin, thank you for coming on in. Derek, hello. How are you? Mr. Man, Mister, otherwise known as Triple M around these parts. Good to have you here. Slim, good to have you back, Slim. The big Slimster right there, everybody. Make sure you give him a clap because he deserves it. All right, who else do we... I know I'm missing somebody here. Alan Deegan, welcome back. Bigfoot Michigan Rob as well. Hope your hunting was good this weekend. Jim Christie, thanks for coming on out. Really appreciate that. Trust Divine Mercy, welcome. And Overbuild Automotive, did we have a date this weekend? And Nilbog Lort, thanks for coming on in. All right. Walter Sobchak, good Ukrainian name. Good, solid Ukrainian name right there. Put that on the back of a hockey jersey. That looks good stuff right there. All right. We got Michael Mays tonight, everyone. And if you haven't heard him speak about cryptids, you're in for a real treat. This dude is down in Texas. He's chasing around the legends of the big black cats and Black Panthers. He's chasing down Bigfoot and all the fun stuff in between. Hey, Frap Sap, welcome back. And yeah, we're in for a good show. Hey, Mike, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. Our YouTube audience is excited. They love the monster talk, man. They love the monster talk, and we're about just over a minute away here from the regular showdown now. So it's all good. We're getting ready. Kick off another week of solid programming. Unlike we had on Friday night. I kicked off my first guest on Friday night, man. First time ever.
Well, it's first time for everything, right?
Well, you know what? When you have a little respect for my audience, when you show up sounding intoxicated and we can hear you drinking and hitting the bong and the vape during the show, doesn't sound very good. And then you decide to swear on the air when we're on terrestrial radio. That doesn't work very well.
No, that's not good at all. I promise to behave myself.
Oh, I know you will, buddy. I know you will. You're a pro. You're a pro. It's been way too long since we had you on, man. Way too long.
I agree. It was fun last time. I'm looking forward to it tonight.
All right. Well, we're about 30 seconds away here. Hey, Jesus, good to have you here, my friend. Thanks for coming on in. Bill WD40 and Tim, good to have you in the other chat room. All right, we're going to send out that final tweet. We're going to get ready for the show. We're 10 seconds away, people. We're going to have ourselves a great night tonight. Let's have a good one. Remember, the super chat is open. Great way to support this show. Give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that bell thing. I don't know what it does. Hit the subscribe button on our channel. Support what we do by shopping at the SOR Vault on our website. And music is on. Let's have a great show tonight, everybody. We're going to start off very strong this week. Very, very strong. Hey, Bill Ohm, welcome back, buddy. Here we go, everyone. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show, especially if you're listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and digitally on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We are heading into Texas tonight to learn about the Lone Star State's monsters. Michael Mays has investigated for nearly 20 years, sightings both out of place of known animals and those that may not exist, or do they? He has appeared on numerous radio programs and on television like the Lowe Files. Mays is the owner and writer of the Texas Cryptid Hunter blog and serves on the board of directors of the North American Wood Ape Conservancy. I think he just got promoted there, too. We're going to learn all about that. And then at the bottom of hour number 3, I will bring you the SOR Newswire, brought to you by Paranoia Magazine. Michael Mays, it's been a couple years since we've had you on Spaced Out Radio. Way too long, and I apologize. That would be my fault for that, but I'm glad you're back, my friend. How you been doing?
Been doing great, Dave. Appreciate you having me back.
Oh, yeah, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you know, I don't think there's anybody better running the cryptid world rather than you in the Texas area, man, because you are working hard. You've got a great crew down there trying to figure out what the heck is going on. For our audience who may not know who you are, let's learn about you. How did you get into the whole cryptid world?
Well, like a lot of people in the late 40s, early 50s, it's kind of a seminal event in my young life was a movie called The Legend of Boggy Creek, and scared the you-know-what out of me as a kid, and just grabbed a hold of something in my imagination and just never really went away. As a kid, I would check out any and all monster books in the library, to the point that my elementary school librarian even made a rule for me where I was only able to check out a monster book every other trip to the library, because she told me she wanted me to be a well-rounded individual. So but the interest it never completely went away. And as an adult, once I had the means and a little time to do it, and The advent of the internet, of course, was a huge thing for research purposes and learning and finding out what was going on across the country and the world. And it just kind of grew from there.
You know, it's funny how you started this as a child. You wanted to learn about these monsters. You wanted to see what was going on. You believed that there was something out there, all because you got a little bit spooked as a child. You know, did you ever think that your life would be this passionate about it, though?
No, but to be honest, as a kid, I don't know if you think about anything in that much depth when you're that young, but it certainly was something that burned in me that just interested me like very few other things. One of the highlights of my childhood was when the $6 Million Man fought Bigfoot on TV. I mean, that was maybe the highlight of my whole year.
Oh, yeah.
As a kid there. I mean, it's just something that, like I said, it just captured my imagination and it never really let go. I suppose that it was the same with a lot of kids, and maybe they outgrew it or just moved on to other interests. And I do have other interests, but this just never left me. I just find it hard to believe that a lot of these stories that are out there are just complete fabrications that have managed to live on for decades, if not centuries, without some seed of truth to them. And that's what I'm trying to get to the bottom of.
You know, you've been doing this for almost 20 years now. And that's probably the most common answer I hear from every researcher out there. We want to try and find the truth. We want to try and figure out what is going on. Is it even possible?
Well, I hope so, because I would hate to think I've wasted this much time. But I believe it is. If I didn't think it was possible, I would remain interested. But I don't think I would pour the time and the money into it that I have if I did not feel that we could come to a resolution with at least some of this stuff. I don't think any one person's going to find the answers to UFOs, Bigfoot, Black Panthers, and so on down the list. But I think people working together, be it collaboratively or even separately apart, who we could start piecing together their research, we might be able to come to a conclusion that satisfies everybody as to what's really going on. If I did not feel that was a possibility, I don't think I would commit the time and the energy to it that I have.
There are so many people here in this field that talk about putting things together, about growing together, about trying to bring the community together. And yet, when it comes down to it, there isn't a lot of teamwork out there. There isn't a lot of camaraderie. What is your thoughts about that?
Well, it's related to the question of, why haven't we found it by now? If we're talking about the Wood Ape or Sasquatch, why haven't we reached a conclusion to this? Why is this still a mystery after all these years? And the answer I used to give most of the time was something along the lines of, well, it's because so few people are actually looking. There's a lot of people that watch the cable TV shows. There are a lot of people who tell scary campfire stories and so on. But how many people are actually out there really doing research and truly looking? That was, and I think that's a valid point. But recent events have led me to believe it's because it's human beings that are looking. I mean, look at the world and what's going on right now, and the turmoil and how difficult time we have just getting along with each other. To bond together, disparate groups from across countries or states or different types of people, different agendas, different personalities. It's a wonder there's as much collaboration as there is. And that's kind of discouraging. But I think the basic answer to the question is why haven't we found them? It's because it's flawed human beings that are looking for them. And we allow personal, like I said, agendas, prejudices, theories. We don't want to let go of our little pet ideas, and it causes division and it causes arguments, and we lose sight of what the real goal should be. And this idea that if you don't agree with me, you hate me. You don't agree with me, so you're an idiot. I can't have anything to do with you. This has really taken hold in society, and it's really a sad thing to see. But I think that has more to do with it than anything.
Do you believe that there is common ground? And like, I'll give you an example of this. For instance, and I'm going to use a term that I hate here. All right, I hate the term Squatch. Okay, To me, anybody who uses that term regarding Bigfoot, I cannot trust your research if you do not respect, the terms about it. A lot of people, yourself, I think of Alex Mistretta, I think of David Weatherly, I think of John Tenney, I think of David Spinks, and numerous others will not use that term because they think it's disrespectful to the legends of the researchers from the past. And they think anybody who uses that term really doesn't know what the hell they're doing in the field anyways. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, I can relate to a degree. When we formed the NAWAC, the North American Wood Ape Conservancy, we made a concerted effort to change our terminology from Bigfoot to Wood Ape. There were a couple of reasons for that. One is that tends to be what a lot of the locals, they call them wood monkeys or wood apes down here, and it makes sense. We tend to subscribe to the theory that it's some sort of primate or ape, and it lives in the woods, so it seems to fit. But we felt that the term Bigfoot had become just laughable. It's a joke now. That didn't necessarily used to be the case, but it everything from beef jerky to ice cream to insurance now is using Bigfoot as a pitch man or a punchline, and it's just kind of a cartoonish name in general. So we felt like by trying to use the term Wood Ape, it gave a more serious, I don't know, image isn't the right word, but it just was less comical, less cartoonish, more scientific than the term Bigfoot was. And then you go down there. One thing I would caution about, though, with what people call it, I think it depends on who it is and what the situation is. If this is someone claiming to be a researcher, I tend to agree with you most of the time. I don't particularly like the term. I would not say I'm offended by it, but it doesn't sound like you're serious. It sounds cartoony. But when you're talking to a lot of witnesses, a lot of different regional colloquialisms, they all have their own names. A lot of people feel that way about the word booger. Well, down in the South, big monster that lived out in the woods, a lot of people refer to it as a booger, and that doesn't certainly sound very serious. But if you're talking to a witness, I think it's hard it's important to take the whole picture in before you make a call. But I know where you're coming from with that, and I do kind of cringe when I hear it on these TV shows with people that are.
That's the whole point, Mike. That's the whole point. I remember I had a chance to speak with the late Dr. John Bindernagel back in 2015. And one of the things that he stated to me in our conversation, and we talked for about 20, 30 minutes. And unfortunately, that was, outside of a couple phone calls, that was the last time I got to see the man and talk to him privately. I never got to interview him on the show. Our schedules just never seemed to come together. But I asked him during that conversation, I said, what's your opinion of the word Squatch? And he said to me, he took a deep breath and he kind of sighed. And he goes, 70 years of research flushed down the toilet by one word. And that hit me. That hit me because here's a man who had since the age of 14 until he died, I believe at the age of 85 or 86, had been trying to bring credible research to this field. And here he was, watching a bunch of television shows, squash this, squash that, and really make it into a comedy rather than the seriousness that he was trying to convince his fellow scientists to start taking this subject a little bit more seriously. And, when I saw that, I just said, you know what? We just will not use that term on this show. We just will not. Because that one stuck with me. And, there's a lot of researchers out there who've been doing this a long time who think that, the terminology, the television shows combined, and, the popularity of people running into the forest, I'm going to find me a squatch. It's almost made foolishness out of it. How have you had to battle that?
Right. Well, I agree with everything you said there, and the TV shows have been kind of a double-edged sword in that they have brought a lot of awareness. They have brought some witnesses out from the shadows who had never told anybody what they might have seen or experienced at some point in the past. So they have done some good, but depending on the show, it can, it doesn't even paint the researchers a lot of times in a great light. The question I always receive from people regarding the shows is if they're so sure that this animal is right there where they are, right in the area, why would they pick up and leave and go somewhere else? Why would they not stay there and keep working that area until they, can zero in on it? And the answer is production schedules, and it's more about the show than it is the actual goal of finding one of these things. So reality TV, I've learned there's not a lot of reality to it in actuality. So but that, some good has come from it, but it does create some short-lived enthusiasts who like to go out and broadcast calls and try to do the things they've seen on TV, and that can be problematic in certain areas. Now, where we tend to be, it's not a problem. We're in awful deep, and it's just too much trouble. It's too hard to get there for that kind of stuff to be going on. I think some people do join organizations thinking it's going to be like what they see on TV, and they find out just how demanding it can be, how expensive it can be. And, it's either, 100 degrees or 30 degrees, it seems like. And you're working in some rough terrain, and you're sweating. There's poisonous snakes, there's wild animals, there's poison ivy everywhere. It's just hard, and it's unpleasant. And a lot of people don't last very long because that's not what they see on TV.
No, and that's probably the barometer where we got to set things. You know what I'm saying? And I think people want the rush. They don't understand. I mean, for people out there who watch the television shows or follow this on talk shows like this or read a lot of books, what's the biggest common mistake that rookies getting into this field make?
Oh boy. Well, first of all, they've got the wrong vehicle most of the time. I've known a lot of people who've tried to go into some pretty rough areas and Mitsubishis and things like that, and they just tear their vehicle up. They're just that you try to tell them how rough it is, and they have a hard time. They believe you, but they think it's going to be okay. They think maybe you're exaggerating or something, and they come underprepared as far as food, water. They pack 18 pairs of socks, but no changes of underwear. There's just all kinds of things they do. And we try to provide some guidance in our group for the new people. But what we tell them right away is you're going to spend a lot of money, not on the group. We're not taking your money, but if you're going to do this right, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And it's going to be unpleasant. We have a big sign up in our research area. It says embrace the suck. And I'm not going to tell you we coined that phrase or anything, but we have adopted it. And you just have to embrace the suck because it is hard. It's unpleasant. And a lot of people just aren't ready. The biggest problem probably is people who are in poor physical condition who show up down there, and they're just not ready to be out in the elements for a week at a time. They're not prepared for the heat. They're not prepared for the cold. They're not prepared for the terrain, the hiking. They got the wrong footwear. Things like that are probably the most common.
I'm wondering about I'm assuming that a lot of these rookies who come out and want to be a part of this, they probably think, well, we're just going to go to the forest. There was a sighting here back in 2004. We'll see it. We're going to find a ton of evidence. Like it's right there. It's waiting for us. You must get a lot of that.
Well, I think we all have this kind of inner arrogance that we're going to be the one, these guys don't know what they're doing. I'll get out there and I'll figure this out. And the other thing is we're a microwave society. We're the kind of people that pop a bag of popcorn into the microwave and it's going to take 60 seconds and we're there yelling, hurry up at the microwave because we're impatient. We want it right now, instant gratification. And it's a grind. And we do get some of those folks. Now, we've been fortunate in recent years. We've got a lot of great new members, and that's one of the reasons our group, we have a yearly training camp for people who sign up and are new, and we pound it into their heads, all this stuff that we're talking about. Before you're going in the field with us, you have to understand this, and this. And a lot of it does get through. Sometimes, there are a few who it doesn't. And typically those are the people that end up dropping out in short order. But one of the reasons we have that training camp for new members is to try to avoid that very thing because it used to be a problem. And by having that camp, though, we've helped alleviate that quite a bit. We have sessions on, just everything we've talked about and more, and how to be prepared. Listen to us, talk to these veterans, talk to the people, what it's like. If you don't believe me, talk to these guys. If you don't believe them, talk to these guys. And it seems to have helped quite a bit. So that's what we've done to try to head off some of those issues that you've raised.
Michael Mays is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got about 45 seconds here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour. Michael, I'm curious in regards to, we might have to carry this over to the next half hour, but I'm curious, you get a lot of people coming in trying to figure out, is Sasquatch an ape? You call it the Wood Ape, or your group does. There's a lot of people who believe there is something spiritual or supernatural about this. I think we need to tackle that because there's a lot of controversy in the entire field about that. Now, I know where you stand, and I know where your mind is open as well, just because, and I think that's admirable, because just because you don't or haven't experienced something, you're not closing the door to it, but yet many in this community do. Michael, I'm going to actually take your answer on this right after we get back from the break here on Spaced Out Radio. Michael Mays, the Texas Cryptid Hunter, is our guest tonight. We're talking Bigfoot. We'll get into some, Black Panthers, maybe some Chupacabra, Who knows what else we'll hit up? Pterodactyls? You think we could get into those? Who knows? We'll figure it out. We're running on the fly here with Michael Mays tonight. on Spaced Out Radio. That's a good, strong first half hour, man. Strong first half hour.
Good. Great. Yeah, it's good.
I think so.
Goes quick.
It does. How did the whole lockdown affect what you were doing?
Well, we have a summer operation every year. We go into Area X, and we send teams of 4 to 6 in there for a week at a time, and then a new team comes in. So we have a continuous presence in there for 2.5 to 3 months. Long-term field study every summer, trying to get this thing done. And we had to kind of shut that down and cancel the first phase of it. People have to have some time to ask off of work, schedule vacation days, coordinate their calendars, and stuff. And so we did, it was a little early, but we knew they needed time, and so we did call off phase 1. We did have a week in between. We had 3 phases, and we had a week in between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3. So we're going to start phase 2 a week early in what would have been the gap week, and we're going to not have a gap between phases 2 and 3, and we may even tack on a couple weeks at the end. It starts to get difficult in August and into early September because, we got quite a few school teachers, myself included, in the group, and that that's when everybody's got to go back to work and get going. And it just starts, even people who aren't teachers, they've got kids in school, and they've got a son who's playing football or a daughter who's in the band or a cheerleader, whatever, and it just gets difficult after that. So we will probably lose some field days this summer, but maybe not as many as it could have been, unless we have some kind of terrible second wave or something. But it was it kind of all took place during a lull in our yearly calendar anyway. We were able to get our training camp in. We were able to have our annual retreat before this all happened. And so that happened before, and now hopefully it's starting to get better, and things are opening back up in time for us to have our summer operation. So we're hopeful, but we did have to bump that stuff back a little bit.
Excellent. No, that's a tough thing to do, man, especially when you are used to running your program and you try and run it thoroughly in exactly the way you're supposed to. That's a tough thing.
And that happens, in the field and everything from teaching my kids at school to trying to run this thing in a group. Life's going to throw curveballs at you, and you have to adjust, and you have to you adjust or you don't succeed, and we just have to do the best we can with what we have. And the bottom line is we feel like those animals are still going to be there 2 weeks later, 3 weeks later, whatever it may be. And it'll be okay, but we wanted to give our members as much time as possible on the front end. Some people had already signed up for those phase 1 weeks, and by canceling those, that they had a nice amount of time where they could try to schedule, something for later, try to rearrange things. And we didn't want to wait till the last minute on them. And so, it is what it is. You got to go with it. And there's a lot of people suffering some real world problems right now because of this whole deal with work, lack of work and unemployment and stuff like that. So we try to keep it in perspective too. It's going to be all right. And we'll just keep on keeping on.
No, I hear you there, brother. I totally hear you there. And that's all you can do. That's all you can do, and you just kind of have to run through it and hope that everything works out.
So. Yeah, fuss about it's not going to help. So no point. Just suck it up and move on. That's all you can do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, my friend. We've got just a couple of seconds here. And I think we're playing here. Hold on. Let me see what we're doing here.
Hall, also known as the Paranormal Lawyer. Together, we're going to go.
I'm not used to the new commercials.
To the unknown.
So what we did, YouTube, just so you know, is we actually cut our commercial times by 1 minute on each one, and so that way it gives you guys a little bit more programming. And I know you guys will never say no to less ads. So yeah, here we go. Second half hour. Thank you to BGs, Grendel, and Gutter for the super chats. Really do appreciate that, guys. Thank you so much for supporting us and what we do. Here we go with the second half hour. Music's on. Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. Really do appreciate you taking the time, because time is important. And you choosing to spend it with us means the world to us around here. We really do appreciate that. I want to remind you that if you miss portions of this show or others, check out our free archives at youtube.com/spaced out radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We got a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire and so much more. Hey, follow us on Twitter if you haven't already at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. We are talking with Michael Mays tonight all about the cryptids that are hiding and hanging around the state of Texas. Can they get away from this guy? They're trying to, though they are trying to. Welcome back, Mike.
Thanks. They're doing a pretty good job so far, too, by the way.
Perfect, man. I appreciate that. I appreciate you filling us in on that. They're doing it up here, too. You know. I will say this before we get to the question I asked you right before the break. I will say this. My own area here, I found yesterday, my buddy Little Marky Spender and I, we were out yesterday with my boy and literally found a wolf track the size of my 6-year-old's hand. That is a big wolf, man. Big wolf. Luckily, we didn't see it, but his track was fresh. And we know he was following some deer because there were some fresh deer tracks in the area, too. So maybe he had a good snack. I don't know. But, yeah. No Sasquatch, none whatsoever. Right before the break, I was asking you a real important question regarding this entire subject, and that is, your group, you call this creature a wood ape. And there are many out there who believe that there is something very special about this creature, whether it's interdimensional, supernatural, has some sort of psychic type power. A lot of First Nations / American Indians believe this, and that is what they have gone on by also calling this creature the wild man over the centuries and millennia that they have dealt with it. How do you draw the line, Michael, between those who are out there strictly for scientific reference of this, comparatively those who have had some very unknown circumstances regarding this creature?
Well, I think individuals who are interested in the topic, and there's a variety of reasons why people come to be interested in the topic. I'd mentioned earlier about me as a young man, seeing the Legend of Boggy Creek and the old In Search Of TV shows and stuff. That's what piqued my interest. Some people, something happens, they have a visual or they have an experience, an encounter of some kind. They've never given the topic a thought in their whole life until this happens. And depending on what that encounter was like, that's going to, however it went, that's going to color their views on what is this thing, and is it an animal? Is it something paranormal? What is it? And I get that. I understand that, and I think those people, if they do move on, I want to learn more about this. I want to look into this. I think they are going to be naturally inclined to to head off and go toward a group that tends to have had similar encounters or experiences. So our group, the position we take is this is a flesh and blood animal. It's a primate, probably an ape. The Gigantopithecus descendant relative is a very prevalent and probably the most popular theory among our membership. But again, this is colored by our experiences. What we have seen, what we have heard, the signs we have found this is all stuff that falls under the umbrella of behaviors of the great apes around the world. Now, I will admit that the things we hear and see and the behaviors we have documented don't fit under any one great ape. It's almost as if this animal has taken this from the orangutans, I've taken this from the gorillas, this from the chimps, and so on. It's kind of this hodgepodge. It's all mixed up together. These different behaviors you see, and that's where we're coming from. Simply because we just haven't seen anything that would cause us to think otherwise. Now, I know there are others out there who have very different types of stories. And from that standpoint, who am I to tell anybody what they saw, what they heard, what this thing did or didn't do. I'm not in any place to judge anyone on that. But I'm a guy that goes with where the evidence leads me. And so far, the evidence I've seen, and I've talked to an awful lot of witnesses over the years, and I haven't heard a story down here in Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, from anyone who's told me anything that could be interpreted as paranormal. Not one witness has said, "Oh, I saw these lights," and I know it's something that some people say they've seen. I haven't had a witness tell me that they saw orbs or lights in association with a wood ape or a Bigfoot sighting. I've not had a witness tell me the thing just poof, it just vanished, it dematerialized. I haven't heard a witness tell me that. Now I know others have. And if I'm ever confronted with that, I'm going to have to ponder on that, I suppose. If I ever see something like that, then I may have to reconsider. But as of right now, I'm certainly in the flesh and blood camp right now, as is most everybody in our group. And I just think people tend to gravitate toward other like-minded folks when it comes to what they think these things are.
Well, the big thing, though, is one thing to have a belief, but it's another thing to close your mind to a lot of it. And this is where we see a lot of the problems in the field of Sasquatch research, is the fact that we have a lot of people out there who are closing doors before they've even investigated it. How important is it to investigate those claims, no matter how weird they may seem to your overall goal?
But I think that's a good point. I think, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater just because it doesn't fit your pet theory. It's kind of like, in the community at large, and I really don't like that term, the community, very much. But it's as if, those who say they're skeptical, what they really mean is they don't believe. Those who say they're open-minded, what they really mean is, I'm 100% in. I believe it, and there's no middle ground there. If that's where you're grounded, I think there are a lot of things that can be explained if someone were to take time to do so. For example, these things are. When they want to be incredibly fast. they're incredibly strong, at least once they're grown. And they can do things that if you saw a person doing it, you would ascribe, superhuman, crazy paranormal powers to. But if you think about things that animals can do, a mountain lion can spring 20 feet straight up in the air up the side of a cliff and be gone. If you glance away for 1 second, it's as if that thing just vanished, You hear some weird stories about footprints that come out of the woods and they end in the middle of a pasture, and they just stop, if it's, snowfall has happened. And I can't explain those, but I've never seen that. So certainly, if confronted with something like that, I would really take my time, look at it, and really carefully consider it. Now, I would look for more traditional explanations. I'm a big Occam's razor guy. The most likely explanation is probably the right one, at least most of the time. I don't. It's a weird topic, so it's hard to shut the door on anything totally.
No, and that's probably the biggest issue that I have with the field is people are so matter of fact about what this thing is, when in reality, we don't know. We don't even know if it truly exists, let alone whether or not it's an ape-like creature that's been around since Gigantopithecus, or whether it is something supernatural. It's quite ballsy to make an opinion like that when you have no clue of what you're even talking about, and there's barely any little evidence to show for it. Isn't that a little bit of arrogance in the term of the field?
Well, sure. And as I've stated to you before, anybody that tells you they're an expert on these animals, you better hide your wallet, your keys, and because they're not being truthful. There are no experts. We have theories, we have hypotheses, but we don't absolutely positively know. That is absolutely true. And anyone who tells you that they absolutely do know, that's either just frightening arrogance or, they're up to no good. And so be wary of those kinds of folks. Now, having a strong opinion is, that's different, but, and we all have those. And again, that's based on our personal experiences, but you're right. We don't know. Now, I think people who have gone out and done the work, like our group has, I think we do know some things. Now, can we prove any of it right now? Not to the satisfaction of the mainstream science. No, we can't. But we do have experiences and documentation and anecdotal evidence and sound recordings and eyewitness accounts, and all these things go together, and they are pieces to the puzzle. So we do know some things. So my advice to anybody out there is, listen to the people that are actually going out and doing the work. There are a lot of websites. There are a lot of books. There's a lot of stuff out there. But listen to the people that are actually going out there on a regular basis, spending the time, busting their rear end in some rugged territory under some harsh conditions, and listen to what they have to say, because there is some information out there. It does fall short of absolute proof, but there are some pieces to the puzzle out there.
How hard are they to find? When someone goes into the field who may not have the experience that you have, what should they be looking for?
Well, there's an old adage, and I don't know where it originated. So if anyone knows, please inform me, and I will credit them for it. But you got to go in deep, and you got to stay a long time. And there's another old saying that says, you don't find Bigfoot, Bigfoot finds you. There's a lot of truth to that. But if you go in deep enough, if you go in where few people go, and you stay for a little while, things can start to happen. Now, you can do some research online. You can search the databases of these organizations where sightings have occurred and where there's a history of encounters, and that can be a guideline, and those are good resources. But you can't expect to go out on a Saturday night and then pack up and leave Sunday morning and be disappointed you didn't have something happen. It's kind of like the guy who goes fishing once a year who thinks he's going to catch a 10 or 12 pound bass. It could happen, it's possible, but it's not nearly as likely as the guy who goes out fishing 3 days a week, right? So you got to put yourself out there, and we have found that the longer you stay, the better your chances are. In the early days of this group, we were kind of the same weekend warriors that almost everybody was. Everybody's got day jobs, everybody's got families. So we would go out, try to do our outings on long weekends where we had Monday off. So we'd be Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and everybody'd go home Monday morning. And what we started to notice was hardly anything ever happened on Friday. Rarely did much happen on Saturday. But on Sunday nights, that's when things would tend to get interesting, was on Sunday nights. But then, of course, we all had to pack up and leave the next day. And so that's when we started thinking, okay, we need to stay longer. Maybe it takes them a day or two to find you. Maybe they don't notice you for a couple of days. I tend to believe, and others in the group, I think, would back me up on this. I think these animals are kind of hardwired to understand that people, if they do show up with their tents and their trucks, we'll just stay quiet and out of the way for a day or two, and then they'll be gone, and we can get back to normal. It's no big deal. There's no need to reveal ourselves or hang around or try to scare them or anything like that. But I think after, day 3, day 4, day 5, I think they start to get impatient. I think they're ready for you to go. And I think that's when some of the behaviors occur that you hear about, people being frightened out of the woods. I think that's when they're more likely to occur, because I think they get tired of waiting for you to leave. So that's where the seed of these summer operations that the NAWAC conducts every year came from. One of our members named Travis Lawrence, he kind of put it all together. What many people had noticed is just, we just need to stay longer. We need to put something together where we're here more than 2 or 3 nights. And that's what we've started to do. And that's when we actually started to get some really interesting results.
Michael Mays is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We're talking Bigfoot right now, as we got about 6 minutes to go before we got to go to break at the top of the hour. Michael, you talk about getting comfortable in an area there. Are you at the point now where, even though you're trying to conduct, real scientific investigation on this, but are you at the point yourself personally where when you arrive at an area, if they're around? Can you feel them?
Well, when I arrive at our main study area, I know they're around. But that comes from just years of going down there and having experiences down there. So this particular area, this area X that we talk about, has proven to be an area where these things, they stay. There's a lot of argument between groups and individuals. Do these things migrate? Do they move around? And how much, if they move around, how far do they go? And things like that. this particular group, I don't know if it's typical for all of them everywhere, but this particular group tends to stay put. Now, I'll be honest with you. I've been out in the woods and gotten that creepy feeling like I'm being watched. Sometimes that's proven to be, I was right about it. Other times nothing happened. So I don't know if I was right or not, but we tell the new guys that in this particular area, when you go in, you assume that you're being watched all the time. And that sounds really creepy, but I think it's just a matter of they don't have cable television. I think we're their entertainment. I think they're watching and seeing what we're up to. I think they're insatiably curious, especially younger ones. And I just think we're the most interesting thing around. We're something new. We're something unusual. And so they keep an eye on us, and but I do think in that particular area, we're being watched pretty much all the time. I believe that.
Are you scared of them?
I have a healthy respect for them. I have been afraid. At times, there have been some really intense moments where I'd be lying to you if I said I wasn't afraid. There have been other times where you're just like, man, wow, that was so amazing. That was so cool. I had a very, very intense experience this last summer. It was not a visual, but it was an auditory encounter right there in camp, and it was more intense than any visual. I like to say I've had 1.5 visuals. I had one pretty strong one, and then I had one that was kind of big, tall something moving through the trees at a distance. So that's a maybe, but this auditory encounter was much more intense than anything I've seen, visually. And it'll rattle your cage sometimes. It's the whole Bigfoot hunting kind of thing it's 99% boredom and 1% terror. That I've heard somebody put it that way before. And when it's intense, it's intense. But yeah, I think anybody says they've never been, who's had encountered says they've never been afraid at all. I find that awful hard to believe. But again, maybe I'm just a big chicken. I don't know. But there have been times when it's gotten to me a little bit, sure.
The reason why I ask that is a lot of times when we have these close encounters, we hear of people who claim this creature was 20, 30 feet in front of me and I never saw it. Now you think a 7 to 10 foot creature, which is probably in the range of 300 to 500 pounds, and if it's that close in front of you making noise, you should be able to see it. It should be right there. That's part of what I don't understand about this entire phenomena.
Well, and it's a valid question, and it's a valid concern, and it very much ties into what I was telling you happened this last summer. My friend Tony Schmidt and I were in camp. We were sitting out. We were keeping a dark camp. We didn't have a fire. We were just sitting out in front of the cabin. We've got a very small hunting style cabin down there in X, and we were sitting near where the fire ring is, but we did not have a fire going. We had a lot of success with dark camps with things. Maybe they're emboldened to come a little closer because I think you can't see them. But we were just sitting there, and all of a sudden, to our just sounded like maybe 15 yards away.
Yeah,
something just started to beat the living, out of the ground with. I don't know, a stick, a log. I don't know what it was, but it was.
Mike, right there. Hold that thought. We're gonna go into hour number 2. I want to hear this story. Michael Mays, Texas Cryptid Hunter, for hour 2 next. All right, my friend. I'm just gonna step away, run my dogs outside. I'll be right back. Okay.
All righty.
I'm feeling a little spicy tonight. What to do?
Why not get Bumblefuck?
4 million Scoville units of pure hard rock. Bumblefoot hot sauces come in 3 flavors. The burning Bumble. Tone it down a bit with Bumblicious and throw the sauce on everything.
Spice it up. Bumble me, baby. Bumblefoot hot sauce. Get it today at kajans.com.
The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the story you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
We all know on Spaced Out Radio we love a good beard and mustache, so why not take care of your facial hair with Mighty Moose Beard Oil? Made in Canada, we're taking care of beards and stashes around the world. We use 100% natural ingredients with our oils and balms to make your whiskers feel silky smooth. Use promo code SOR2019 at mightymoosebeard.com today.
Hi, this is Amber Beckrud, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we store all of the SOR show archives for free. And as an added bonus, every 2 weeks I'm posting brand new content on Cryptid Tales, where I will get into some of the spookier legends and folklore from around the world and tell the stories that go with them. Find us at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio and check out Cryptid Tales today. Drop a comment and let me know what you want to hear. See you there.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns up and rock with the Moose, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother Is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter.
That off. We got about 2.5 minutes here.
Okay. What kind of dogs you got?
I got a German Shepherd and a German Shepherd Lab cross.
Excellent. We've got a Dutch Shepherd.
Nice.
At the house. She's easily the best and smartest dog we've ever had. And, you know, we're dog people, so I don't know. Once she's gone, I don't know if we'll even bother trying again because she's pretty amazing.
Yeah, my guys they're two different attitudes. I got my purebred German Shepherd from my buddy Mike, who had to rehome his dog, and I wasn't looking for another dog. I had 2 dogs at the time, and he's like, dude, I don't want to send him to the pound. I said, well, what kind of dog is he? He's a German Shepherd. I said, what color is he? He goes, he's black. I said, bring him over. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I will definitely get another German Shepherd after this. I've just been so impressed with the purebred Shepherd. He's just a phenomenal dog.
Yeah, she's the same way. They use those Dutch, German Shepherds too. German Shepherds, Dutch Shepherds, and then the Malinois. They use them in police and military work. Yeah. They're really smart, and they want to please you. They want to do it, and then they're protective of the house. So when I leave, for a week, I feel a whole lot better leaving the wife here with that Dutch Shepherd than I did before. So, and she's black. She's got this kind of marbled, brindled kind of color to her, but very dark, but really can be an intimidating looking dog when she wants to be. And I like that.
Me too.
Very much. So,
me too. I laugh at my wife because she still locks the doors, and I'm like, why? I said, who's coming in? Who's coming in?
Well, they won't stay, that's for sure. But there was a time,
Hey, hold on 1 second here, buddy. We're just about to come back here, and because we kind of got the show to do. Music's on. Thank you to everybody on the super chat. Here we go with hour 2. Great way to support us is do a little shopping at the SOR Vault on our website and join the Space Travelers Club for $5 a month. Here we go. Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. I appreciate each and every one of you saying hello to us and spending your evening with us. We welcome back everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates across North America and on the digital side on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember to check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. The only thing I ask for in return, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Groupuscule. Groupuscule is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. We are joined tonight by Michael Mays. He is known as the Texas Cryptid Hunter. He goes after legendary Black Panthers, Sasquatch, Chupacabra, you name it. If it's strange and weird, he is investigating it. And we're talking Sasquatch right now. And Michael, welcome back to the show.
Well, thank you, Dave.
No problem. I appreciate you taking the time for us as well. Now, right before the break, we were talking about whether or not this creature and when you're investigating it, how you do it, what should you be doing, how close have you been scared? We've gone through a lot of the gamut in regards to this. Do you believe this creature that we call Sasquatch, Bigfoot, Wood Ape, whatever we want to call it, okay, do you believe that this does show some sort of aggression towards people?
I think it can. I don't think it's any different than any other animal in the forest as far as that kind of thing goes. I don't, excuse me. I don't think as a rule they're out there hunting people, out to get people. But you think about the different temperaments you see in bears. You've got some that are just get frightened at the drop of a hat and they'll turn tail and run. And then you have others that are, whether they're old or sick or have a toothache or just having a bad day that day, whatever the case may be, they choose to get really aggressive at times. And from that standpoint, I don't think on a regular basis, they're anything to be afraid of. But I think, they are big, powerful creatures that should be respected. And so again, in that regard, I don't think they're different than much else that's out there in the woods.
You still have to have a common respect for it, though. Like, for instance, if you saw one, if you saw one that was, say, 30, 40 feet in front of you moving through the trees, would you chase after it?
If it ran, I would. Now, when they have a way of letting you know that's enough, again, like a lot of the animals are, you just have to kind of read the situation. I say I would. I haven't been in that exact scenario, but I know guys who have been. And the overwhelming majority of the times, these things have taken off. They've run off, and basically they leave our guys in the dust. They're so much faster and more agile. But they don't seem to really want confrontation most of the time. Now, there have been other times where guys have gotten close to a really heavily brushy area where you can't really see, and there's clearly something in there, and there's a growl or a vocalization or something that says, okay, that's enough. That's far enough. And I think you have to respect that. If you're hiking along and you hear something like that, I think obviously the wise thing to do would be to back off slowly and respect the animal.
Question coming from our chat room here on YouTube, where Lord of Land is asking, do you believe that we need to kill Sasquatch to prove it's real?
Unfortunately, I think that is probably the only way that mainstream science will accept it. I mean, if you think about, a lot of people hang their hat on video or photographic evidence. If you think back to the 1967 Patterson-Gimlin footage, broad daylight, I don't recall exactly how long the creature's on film, but it's not just a second or two. It's a good long look at it as it walks at first left to right and then away from the camera. If that's not good enough, you have to ask yourself what footage ever will be, especially in modern times when so much photo manipulation and video manipulation software is out there. I think unless you get video or a photograph of it doing something that no person could do, then I think it's just going to be, pretty much ignored. Look at the footage, that Paul Freeman got in the Blue Mountains. I mean, that's pretty impressive, and yet it's just not talked about. There are a couple of very impressive photos that were taken on an Indian reservation in Concho, Oklahoma. You may be familiar with the story about the casino, the animal that was seen behind at a dumpster behind a casino there in Concho years ago. Was kind of in conjunction with a flap of sightings at that time, and there were two very, very impressive photographs that were taken, and they generated absolutely zero interest from the scientific community. They're simply blown off. It's a guy in a suit. It's fake. It's a hoax, and that's all there is to it. It's really a very unscientific attitude, but it's their attitude nonetheless. So I think the only thing that's going to be indisputable is a specimen. Now, having said that, I'm in favor of collecting one and one only in order to then start the process of conservation, to have habitat set aside. you have to first prove the animal is real. If not, you're basically asking the government, hey, set aside all this land that will never be used again, never be developed, that will never exploit it for its resources because a unicorn lives there. I mean, that's the equivalent. That's what you're doing. You're asking them to preserve habitat for a myth. And so you have to prove it's real and you have to prove it's there. And to take one to save a population, I think is something that has to be done. And again, I think the trick here, it's unsavory to a lot of people. It's not that anyone wants to take one and put it on their mantle. It's strictly to save the entire species, the population. That's the goal. It seems to be kind of at odds with one another. Say, I want to kill one to save them. But that's I really believe that's what has to happen. And that's the reasoning, behind it. A lot of people say, why don't you just leave them alone? They're doing fine. Just leave them alone. They don't need your help. And if development wasn't taking place, if we weren't losing hundreds and hundreds of acres of forest land every single day across this country, I would agree with that. But we are. And I don't think these animals have much to fear from hunters. If they did, we'd have had specimens a long time ago. But I do think if it's habitat destruction, if there's no more wild lands, if there's no more forests, if there are no more woods, there's no more wood ape. I mean, that's just the way it is. And along with hundreds of other species as well. So to have the habitat preserved, you've got to prove it's real. And that's why I feel the way I do.
There's a lot of people out there who would say that's pretty barbaric.
Sure. But again, I think that's an emotional response. It's an understandable emotional response. Mm-hmm. But what does science demand? Science demands that there is a holotype, there is a specimen. It has to be something people can come and examine, and someone's results, another scientist from another university, another country, whatever the case may be, has to be able to come in and duplicate those results. That's just, the way it works. And people, well, can't you just get DNA? And that sounds really good. But basically that's been done and it hasn't helped us. Because basically there's a bank of known DNA of all the animals on Earth that are documented. And what happens when a sample's collected, it's compared to what we have. And if it doesn't match anything that we already have, it's considered to be either, all the sample's contaminated or, well, we don't know what it is. And then that's it. But an unknown result is not going to get habitat preserved. And again, the trick is to think of the animal in terms of a population, an entire species. Yes, it's unfortunate. It is harsh, and it's a terrible thing for the one. But if it saves all of them, is that a worthy sacrifice?
Well, I know
people are going to have to.
And I know up here in Canada, sorry to cut you off there. I know up here in Canada where I am, there's a lot of mining communities. There is a lot of forestry that is relied upon in our communities here in order to keep them sustainable. And there are logging companies, especially, who have had their areas, lack of a better term, terrorized by Sasquatch creatures. It happened about an hour and a bit away from me just 2 summers ago. And this is a well-known area where this creature has been sighted. And the point that I'm getting at is, there's hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, in natural resources that could all of a sudden disappear because if we learn about this creature's territory, if we learn about its habitat and where it's traveling to, its migration patterns, absolutely everything, if this is an animal, okay, this is going to cost a lot of money and a lot of jobs.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know that's why up in my area, if something happens, the logging crews are literally told to shut up. They are told not to talk about it. They are told to keep everything quiet. You didn't see anything, for the safety of their own jobs. They don't have a choice. They're freaked out. Some crews get so scared where the bosses will say, okay, if you don't feel like working on this claim, that's okay. That's up to you. But just shut up about it.
Right. No, and we've heard I've heard the same stories from the lumber companies here in East Texas. Most people think of Texas as the dry, dusty desert. You've seen all the old John Wayne movies, but we have a lot of forests. The whole eastern portion of the state's called, the Piney Woods, and lots of lumber and timber companies, especially, going back 100 years ago, 75 years ago, and it's slowed down some now. But yes, the same kind of stories. I've been told these companies have files of encounters that their crews have had, and again, they're told to be quiet about it. Don't tell anybody about it, for the very reasons that you've mentioned. And this is the kind of thing that leads to all these conspiracy theories that you hear about. Well, the government knows. The government knows, and they very well may. In some ways, I kind of think, how could they not? But you're right. There's a lot of money at stake. The timber industry, the paper industry, they sure don't want this thing to be real. I mean, look at what happened with the spotted owl up in the Pacific Northwest.
Yes.
It just was a big mess, and this would be that times 100. I mean, it would just be, it would just change everything. And the camping industry doesn't want this thing to be real. I think they're afraid that, the outdoors industry, that they're afraid nobody'd ever go outside again. They'd be terrified, And you can connect all kinds of dots as to who might be affected and all of that. And I think it is an impediment. I think that if, lumber company A were to share what it has, maybe that could expedite this whole thing being solved. But for the reasons you've outlined, I just don't think that's going to happen. I think you just follow the money, and people don't want to, for lack of a better term, cut their own throats when it comes to the money coming through the pipeline.
I don't think you have a choice.
Well, yeah. Well, if you're the owner of a timber company, you're right. I think the only thing about it, again, is you get into the ethics of destroying the habitat of another living creature, and you're kind of playing God there as to whether the species lives or dies. And I get you have to do what you have to do to feed your family. It's a tough spot to be in, I'm sure.
Ethics aside, though, when you are investigating, this leads to Chris's question here. He is asking, do you carry a sterile container for the case in case you just find something? We do have evidence collect. We call them evidence collection kits. That we've got gloves and tweezers and all kinds of stuff depending on what we find. We've used that to collect hair samples and scat and things like that. And what we've been told is the best thing to do is
brown paper bags or envelopes. That a lot of people use baggies. And they zip them up in these baggies. But if they spend much time there at all, humidity and things, some of these locales where we operate can play havoc with whatever's in there. So, you get them in a paper sack or envelope of some kind. You get it to a freezer as soon as you can, and then you decide what to do with it. But we do have evidence collection kits, and this summer, along those lines, we are going to take our first dip our toe into the waters of the environmental DNA thing. You may have heard about what they did at Loch Ness with this, where whatever was living in that lake, should leave some trace of itself in that lake. So we're working on the assumption that should we find a footprint, that maybe there's some, I don't know whether they're dermal cells or hairs or something, there may be some sort of DNA material left behind that we can collect using this environmental DNA kit, collect it and have that tested. They're talking about taking snow, mud, dirt, even water, and being able to do a search, for DNA. Now, again, there's limited value there, because even if they find the DNA of this animal, it's not going to be in the DNA bank, so to speak. Probably the best we can hope for is unknown. But if that, if we have that result on file, then later, should we, we find hair and it comes back as the same, okay. Now we're starting to build our case that there is an animal out there that's unknown, and then maybe that gets the attention of, and this is where maybe a specimen becomes unnecessary. If you get someone with the resources of the Smithsonian Institution or National Geographic or someone like that interested with their resources and their time, then maybe we can do this without it. But without those kinds of resources, I'm just skeptical that we can. But that's what we're trying to do. We're trying a lot of things. We're not just running around out in the woods with guns. We're still using cameras. Again, we're going to try the environmental DNA. We're doing all kinds of different things. We had an experiment a couple of years ago, and we're still doing it now with radio tags, radio transmitters, where we're attempting to get one of these things to tag itself with and using the advanced telemetry systems, be able to track it. We think we pulled that off back in 2015, and it garnered shockingly little interest from the scientific community. But it's a pretty fascinating event. You can read about it. We have on the NAWAC website. It's woodape.org. It's called the Tag 7 paper. You can read about how that worked, and anybody's watched any Wild Kingdom when they were a kid, or any wildlife shows, you've seen these guys tag animals, and they've got the handheld antennas, and they're scanning, and they're getting a radio signal from a transmitter, and that's basically what we did. And we feel strongly that it was an ape that we got a tag on. The way we got it to basically tag itself was just, it's just genius. We've got some really smart people, very outside the box thinkers in this group, and that was one of our, what I believe were really one of our great successes. That later, as we continue to accumulate evidence, I think a lot of people are going to look at that Tag 7 paper and what we were able to deduce and figure out tracking this animal over 10 months. I think we've gleaned a lot of information from that data.
Well, let's get into that more when we come back from our break here at the bottom of the hour. Michael Hayes is our guest tonight. When we come back, we're going to talk about tagging a Sasquatch. Has it been done? It may have been. We'll find out more with Michael Mays, the Texas Cryptid Hunter, right after this on Spaced Out Radio. That's a solid half hour there, my friend. Solid half hour.
Great.
You having fun?
Good. Yeah, I am. It's kind of refreshing. You don't really get to talk about it all that much in everyday life. So, we're all kind of still in junior high. You don't like to be made fun of and laughed at and have people make jokes. So, a lot of times you just don't talk much about it at work or with your work or church or your next door neighbor or whatever. And it's just, you talk about it with your associates who are interested in the same thing, but not much of an outlet otherwise.
No, you kind of sometimes have to pick and choose your spots, eh?
Well, you do, you have to kind of get to know somebody first and kind of rolls the dice, and a lot of times the concern has turned out to not be warranted. People are interested. Now, they may not be interested enough to want to join the group and go traipsing around the woods with you or whatever. But they want to hear about when you come back from a trip, they want to hear about it and what's going on. And they ask a lot of the questions about the TV shows. And that's where you find out how many people really have at least a passing interest, because somebody's watching all these TV shows. There's a reason they keep making them. And you find out, some of your buddies that you never would have suspected, they're doing that if nothing else. And so they'll ask a lot of questions about, usually it's, have you met so-and-so? Have you met so-and-so? Then, have you seen one? And, well, is this true? Is that true? And sometimes it leads to other things. And, but yeah, you don't just whip out the topic at parties.
I do. I do. That's the only thing I can do to make myself center of attention.
Well, yeah, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. But you got to kind of test the waters first and see. But it's with me, it's not much of a secret anymore. So a lot of people want to talk about stuff like that, and they want to talk about what they saw on TV. Or, my grandfather told me a story, and what really opened the door for me was all the Black Panther stuff. People that would just laugh in your face about Bigfoot, will tell you a story about a Black Panther they saw, or their dad saw, or their grandpa saw. Or you can't get a room in Texas with 20 people in it. You can throw a rock and not hit somebody who either saw one or knows somebody who did. And then when they find out, well, that's not supposed to exist either. What do you mean? Like Bigfoot? I'll say, that's exactly right. It's not supposed to be real. Science will tell you it's not real. And then they're kind of, well, huh. And that makes them kind of rethink the whole, Bigfoot thing too, because, well, I saw one of these cats and they say they're not real. And I know what I saw. Well, maybe that guy really did see what he says he saw. So, that whole Black Panther thing has opened a lot of conversations for me.
Jason is in the chat room asking here, how do you feel these things when they are near? For me, Jason, it's just, it's hard to explain. It's like feeling the energy that's around you, and trying to figure out how different it is comparatively to everything else. And excuse me, I apologize. For me, it's about just taking how I feel before I go in and going and comparing those feelings to whether it's something heavy, if you feel looming and scared. Nature, the beautiful part about being out in nature, and Mike, I'm sure you would agree with this, as we got about a minute to go here before the break, or we come back from the break, is nature has the best alarms possible. And when something is around, things will go quiet. When something is around, a crow will start cawing, or a chipmunk will start chirping, or something along those lines. There's always something to tip you off when something is around.
Yeah, and the secret, of course, is to be familiar with your environment. I think if you're, you go to an area or spot, I've hunted 20 years, but this time was different. Well, those guys are so familiar with the woods and the sounds and the feelings, and when something's not right, they may have a hard time putting their finger on what it is, but they can, we have instincts too. Now we've done everything we can to bury them deep, but we do. Probably the best way to put it. It's just instinct and trying to recognize everything, All right. We got about 10 seconds. Thank you to everybody who has participated in the Super Chat. 113 people watching right now. If you haven't hit that thumbs up, please do so. We would greatly appreciate that. Also, if you haven't subscribed before, we'd appreciate that. Along with that bell thingy. I don't know what that does, but hit that anyways. Here we go. We passed the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. We really do appreciate that. We want to remind you that if you've missed portions of this show or others, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We'd greatly appreciate that. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including Rocking Out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Tonight we're talking Sasquatch, Black Panthers. Texas Cryptid Hunter Michael Mays is with us. We're getting into all the monsters tonight. And we love our monsters around here, everyone. Michael, welcome back to the show. Thanks, Dave. Appreciate it.
No problem. Now, right before the break, you were telling a little bit of a story, and I want you to go into detail about this because your team believes that they have actually tagged a Sasquatch, much like you would tag a bear or a great white shark in the ocean. This is amazing.
Well, we think we did pull that off. I'll kind of give you the abbreviated version. This was in 2015. We had one of our group members is a wildlife biologist from Maine. His name's John Perry. And he suggested using advanced telemetry systems is the company. They create these radio tags. He was using these tags on reptiles. If our memory serves me, they were working with turtles. And they would take these radio tags, they'd glue them to the shell of a turtle, and they'd turn it loose, and they would periodically, they would scan. You have an antenna. It's a handheld deal, and it's linear. You have to point it direction. It's a directionally based deal. You have to. If you're pointing the wrong way, you won't get a hit. You won't get a signal. It's kind of almost like think of line of sight. It's not sight because it's radio, but radio signals. But you have to be pointed at the tag, and you'll get a hit, and you can track down, the tag, the animal that is tagged using this telemetry, and by checking in from time to time, you can start to figure out movement patterns, territory. What kind of habitats are they going to? Do they prefer? Where do they go in the winter? Where do they go in the summer? All kinds of useful, data. So John suggested that we might try to make use of this technology. And these radio tags, they come in all different sizes. The size he was using was very small. Again, it was for reptiles. And the trick, of course, was how do we get this on an ape, on a Sasquatch? What do we do? How are we going to do that? So while that was going on, that discussion was happening. Our chairman at the time, Alton Higgins, another wildlife biologist, he had started to use what he called string traps in area X. And what he would do, he took some industrial strength black sewing thread, and he would tie it to one tree, and then he would stretch the thread out. He would not tie the other end around another tree, but he would kind of loosely just kind of loop it around another tree. And he would do this at heights of about 7 feet. He didn't want, for example, a deer walking through to walk through the thread. And this thread is just practically invisible out in the woods. And the idea is something will walk through the string, the thread, and as it walks through, the end of the thread that is not tied will unwrap itself, and it'll stretch out as the animal passes through, and the way the thread is stretched out will give you the direction the animal was traveling. And so you have some data you can glean from that, depending on how high you place it, the directions, and through the use of these string traps, Alton was able to deduce, to figure out several travel paths for something. Something was walking through there, something big was coming through there and walking through these string traps. And so the idea was to somehow marry the transmitters, the little radio tags, to this string trap deal. And we have a member named Mark McClurkin, just a genius. And what he did, we had the small radio tags that were used for the reptiles. They're only about an inch long. Now they have about a 3-inch little antenna on them. But what Mark did is he took a cocklebur, which, if you've ever been down to Texas, a cocklebur, I think it's in the sunflower family, but it's this spiky. It's a seed housing basically for the plant, but it's just all spiky. And these things, if you walk through a field, they're going to get stuck to your pants, your socks. If you have a horse or a dog or an animal of any kind, these things get all tangled up in their hair, and you basically have to shear the animal. You almost have to cut them out. You just can't untangle them because they're just so spiky and they just get embedded. And so these cockleburs get to be pretty large. And so what Mark did was he would cut one in half. He'd hollow it out, get all the seeds out of it. So it was just a shell on the inside. And he would then glue the cocklebur, the actual radio tag, into the cocklebur. And then all that was exposed with a little bit of antenna. Now, he then took little eyelets, little hooks, and he glued one of those to the actual cocklebur, and then there's a magnet that sticks to the radio tag. The radio tag has tiny little batteries in it, and so you don't want them, they don't last forever, so you don't want them broadcasting signals when the animal hasn't been tagged yet, so that they put a magnet on it, and that prevents the tag from activating. When the magnet separates from the tag, that's when the device will start to transmit the radio signal. So he put a little hook glue a hook to the magnet, and we took one of Alton's string traps, basically, and we suspended, we put it in the travel areas he had identified, and we stretched the string across the travel pathway at a height of about 7 feet. and one string supported the cockleburr and the tag, and then a second string was tied to the hook on the magnet, and it was tied to a tree. So if anything came through there and hit that string, that the second string would hold the magnet in place and pull it from the tag, and then the tag would begin to transmit. And you say, well, why would anything walk through it? You know, it's hanging there. You would see it. It looks, if you've ever walked a trail in the woods in the summertime, a lot of people carry a stick and they just wave it in front of them because there's so many spider webs that you walk through. And it just looks like another spider web with a little bit of forest debris caught up in the web. It's very natural looking, especially if it's in a spot that has some shadow. At night, it's practically invisible. And to top it off, Mark would cover the cockleburr side of the device with rat trap glue. If you're familiar with these kind of flat paper traps, the glue traps, he'd scrape some of that gunk off and put it on the cockleburr. And that stuff stays sticky, rain or shine, for weeks and weeks at a time. And just to kind of try to further ensure that this thing would stick to whatever walked through. And Mark tested it on feathers. He found that it didn't stick to feathers at all. He tested it on deer hide. Did not adhere to deer hide very well. But anything that actually had significant fur or hair, it seemed to really stick in there. So we were hopeful that this thing would work. So we bought 7 of these tags. We bought a couple of receivers to receive the radio signals. We had 3 different antennas. 2 of them were handhelds. One that were directional. A third antenna that was an omnidirectional one that just would kind of tell you generally one was in the area. Spent a lot of money on this stuff, and we deployed 7 tags in the summer of 2015. And they were out there about a month. Nothing had happened. And then it was in August of 2015 when some of the guys that were in the area, they made a visual inspection of the tags, and they found that one was gone. The magnet was hanging there on the string. The tag was gone. The string trap had been compromised, and they went back. They got the antenna, the receiver, and they were getting a very strong hit from nearby. It had obviously been moved and was on an animal of some kind because, if it had just fallen off or something, it would have been right there at the base of the tree, and that was clearly not the case. They did not discover this till about 8:30, 8:45 at night. It was getting dark, so they decided, well, the signal's very, very strong. It's close. We will pick up the trail first thing in the morning because, we can't go running around the mountains in the middle of the night. And they got up the next morning, got the receiver, got the antennas out, and they could not get a signal anywhere. They couldn't find it. It was gone. Now, these batteries were good for 300 to 350 days. So they knew it wasn't a case of the battery just quit. I mean, these things are good for a while, but they could not locate a signal of any kind. And so from that point on, we had guys coming in. We got those antennas, and we went all over creation down there trying to reacquire the signal, and we just couldn't. We talked to John Perry again, and he recommended that we take that omnidirectional antenna and we take it up in an airplane and we fly over the area, because it is line of sight. You have to have a direct line, and there's so much cover. There's so many ravines and trees, and if it's on the other side if it's on the opposite slope of the mountain, you're not going to get a hit. So get up in an airplane and see what you can find. And we do have some pilots in the group, and they rigged up the antenna on their plane. And they flew back and forth over our study area many, many times, and it didn't get to hit at all. And so then they started to expand the search area, and they started flying kind of a figure eight pattern in larger and larger arcs around the larger area. And they ended up getting hits basically 2 valleys over, miles from where the tag was activated, where it had originally been deployed. So whatever had walked through and gotten stuck with the tag had now gone, it was like 6 miles away. And it had crossed at least one mountain to get there. And so after that,
what was that time frame? Sorry for interrupting you. What was that time frame between going from where it was tagged and the signal was first hit to getting 6 miles away? The tag was activated in August of 2015, and we did not reacquire the signal until December. That's when the plane got up. That's when because we had ground crews. We were trying to find it that way, and we just couldn't. It wasn't until December we were able to get a plane in the air, and that's when we reacquired the signal. Now, we came back, we had the plane up again, and we had ground crews that would respond to the directions of the pilots, and they were chasing this thing and trying to get close to it, and they did get close to it on several occasions. They were never able to get a visual of whatever it was, but they were within, based on the strength of the signal they were getting, they felt like they were probably within 100, 150 yards at times. But this thing would just give ground. Whenever they got close, it would just kind of fade away. It would just kind of keep this distance between them, and then eventually it would go somewhere we couldn't go. And so altogether, we collected, memory serves, about 25, 26 different hits over those 10 months. And which is on the small side for a sample size, but it is considered enough to be a valid sample size. It's on the low end, but it is considered enough to be a valid sample size. And we learned some interesting things. We really, I don't think any of us expected the tag to stay on the animal as long as it did. Honestly, in some ways, we kind of hoped it wouldn't. We kind of hoped that it would remove the tag, because then the tag would stay in one place, and we could track it down. Right? It wasn't going to move. It wasn't going to run away from us, and we would be able to find it. And as covered with glue and everything as it was, it would have had hair. There was the hope of hair samples, DNA, all that kind of stuff, because we never really thought in all likelihood, we could actually track it down on foot. But it stayed attached to the animal until the battery died. The last contact we had, let me think. I want to say it was June the next year. I think that's right. I think it was June of 17 was the last, June of 2016 was the last contact we had with it. And that would have been just about, just shy of a year, which again, the batteries are said to be good 300 to 350 days. And that would be about right. And that's about the time the other tags that weren't deployed, that their batteries went. So we figure that's what happened. So over 10 months, we collected 25, 26 hits. And we learned some things, it was in the summer, whatever it was, tended to be in areas where it was predominantly hardwood, deciduous type forest, a lot of nut-bearing trees, hickory, walnut, lots of oaks and things like that. And then in the winter months, it moved to a completely different location that was heavily, it was a pine-dominated forest, evergreen trees. And,
hardwood trees drop their leaves in the winter, and it's, visibility is great. You can see hundreds of yards in the forest in the winter of a hardwood forest because there's no vegetation to speak of. Whereas pines, they stay greened up year round. So we found that interesting. We were able to get, using different methodologies, we were kind of able to discern some, what we were calling it a home range. I don't know if you call it home range or territory. Technically, there is a difference. We use 3 different methods. The one I quote most of the time is the one that's in between. We have an estimate that's lower and one estimate that's higher, using a method called the adaptive kernel method, which probably doesn't mean much to most folks. It's just a way of determining home range. This thing had a range of 42.7 square miles, which is pretty big. That's a pretty mobile animal. And so we just don't think it was any animal that's documented that lives in that area for various reasons. People have asked, could it have been a bear? Could it have been a mountain lion or a deer or, all kinds of things? And for various reasons, we don't think that it could have been. Number one, it was hung up at over 7 feet high. These are black bear, in Oklahoma, not grizzlies, so it would take an immense black bear to stand up and be 7 feet high. Also, we were tracking this thing in winter months. That's when bears are denned up. They're not moving. They're asleep during those times. And this thing was on the move during the winter months when the bears were denned up. So we don't think it was a bear. Also, the home ranges for bears, just, they vary from about 5.5 to 8 miles for sows, and about double that for males. But this was significantly larger than any range for a black bear in that part of the world. Mountain lions have a range about that big, but again, the fur, we don't think this thing would have adhered to a mountain lion for that long. And we don't understand how a mountain lion would have been tagged by something 7.5 feet high.
Well, the other thing too with the mountain lion is when it is foraging, during the winter, all it's doing is looking for food. That's it. It's just trying to survive. So it is going to get into some deadly battles, whether that's with small creatures like rabbits, maybe bigger creatures like deer, or even some super brawls with wolf packs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So again, all that argues against that tag staying in place for that long. And again, the hair is shorter. That they fluff up and get a thicker coat in the winter. But again, we kind of considered a mountain lion's coat similar to that of a deer, kind of a short-haired coat, and we just don't think it would have adhered for that amount of time. Deer, we considered, again, this thing's 7.5 feet high, and sure a deer can jump that high, but why would it? What are the odds of it? It's 50 feet from a human encampment. It's going to come bounding through. And again, Mark tested these things on a deer hide, and it just didn't adhere very well at all. Mm-hmm. Another suggestion some people have made is it was an owl or a bat. Mark tested on feathers.
You don't have moose down there.
We don't have moose, no.
Okay.
Down here. And the bats, Mike can make a bit of an argument, but bats migrate out of Oklahoma and in the winter, and they hibernate. So again, this thing was active during the winter. And then coyotes or raccoons or possums and all these things, none of those animals have the range that this thing displayed. So what does that leave, and of course, people say, well, you're biased. That's what you're looking for. Of course, that's what you think. Well, I'm open. You tell me what else it could have been, because the usual suspects, there are major flaws with each one of those arguments for the usual suspects, that you find in that area. And so we're pretty convinced, and we can't absolutely say for sure, but we're pretty convinced that's what it was.
Mike, I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We got Michael Mays for another half an hour on Spaced Out Radio, going into hour 3. Then at the bottom of the hour, the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. Final hour of Spaced Out Radio is next. That's a great story, dude. Great story.
Well, yeah, we think so. And we were just, we wrote up a paper and tried to have it published in some journals. And I mean, nobody would touch it.
Really?
Nobody wanted it.
Hey, I'll be right back here, my friend. I'm just going to run my dogs out.
Sure.
Promotions. There are many opportunities to get your name and product out to our SOR listeners. For a price guide and more information, please contact us at sales@spacedoutradio.com.
For the price of 1 cup of coffee a month, you can become an SOR Space Traveler. The Space Travelers Club is a place where you can interact with other listeners, either live during the show or on our great forum. We want your stories, pictures, comments, and ideas. You'll get live video streams, exclusive content, and be a part of our newsletter. Stay in touch with everything SOR. The Space Travelers Club is just $5 a month at spacedoutradio.com.
Hi there, this is the paranormal lawyer Michael W. Hall. I'd like to invite you to listen in each Sunday night where we're going to open up your eyes to everything strange and paranormal. I will be hosting some great guests with topics that affect us all, such as UFOs, ghosts, and everything paranormal. Let's learn together on Spaced Out Radio Sunday with myself, Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer at spacedoutradio.com.
We're adding to the entertainment online for Spaced Out Radio. I'm Amber Beckard, and I want to invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and check out Cryptid Tales, where I will take you on a journey into some of the strangest legends and lore from around the world, relaying the stories to you of the strange creatures and experiences that people have had throughout time. You can find Cryptid Tales at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. And while you're there, don't forget to check out our free archives and leave a comment. See you there. The SOR Vault is open for business, and do we have some cool swag for you to pick up? All you have to do is head over to our website and click on the SOR Vault. You have a variety of cool logos to choose from, and put them on anything you want. T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee mugs, you name it, we can get it to you. So do your shopping by supporting the store you love. Get your Spaced Out Radio swag at the SOR Vault today.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Hello, Space Travelers. It's me again, Carl. Don't forget to join the Space Travelers Club for just $5 a month, and follow Spaced Out Radio on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio. Our Instagram, Dave Scott SOR. Our Facebook page is Spaced Out Radio Show. Our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Come woo it up with Spaced Out Radio today. Bye.
Hello everyone, this is Ryan Stacy from the Experiencer Support Association, otherwise known as TESSA. We're glad to team up with Spaced Out Radio to help investigate your experiences on the SOR Sightlines report. Together, we'll investigate the strange sightings and occurrences you've had. We're looking for answers just like you. So fill out a Sightlines report on the Spaced Out Radio website, and let's figure out what's going on together.
The party is always on at the Moose Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is where you want to be when visiting Canada's West Coast. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose cranks up the rock while serving some of the best rated food in the city. The menu starts at $6.95. Why party anywhere else in Vancouver when the Moose is right there? Get your horns
All right,
up
buddy, we got
and
2
rock
minutes
with
left.
the Moose, the
2 minutes
official
before
party
break.
bar of Spaced Out Radio.
It's flying by tonight, man. Flying by.
It's fun. It's fun. I enjoy it.
Let's change topic, get into some Black Panthers here.
All righty.
Yeah. Switch it up a little bit. I'm actually liking this. The commercial's a little bit shorter. That makes me feel good.
It's good.
Yeah. 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 Figured we'd test it on out. See how it's going.
I think people listening will like that.
Oh, sure. What the hell? What the hell? YouTube crowd will like it. They'll like it. They like anything. All right. Do. All right, we've got about 45 seconds here. Yeah, it's a good show so far. Thank you, Filth. Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Oh. We've got one more commercial. Hey, if you're on Instagram, I want to remind you, we just opened up a brand new Instagram account for the show. It's at Spaced Out Radio Show. I have my personal account at Dave Scott SOR. Would love it if you could add our new account on Instagram. Once again, it is at Dave or at Spaced Out Radio Show. And yeah, thank you for the super chats tonight, BGs, Grendel, and Gutter. And support our show by going to our website, spacedoutradio.com, and
you like to
doing a little shopping at the SOR Vault. Here we go with the music. Hour 3 underway.
For all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Let's kick off the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us. Hi to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America and on the digital side on TalkStream Live and Revolution Radio. Remember, you can check out all of our archives for free by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. The Desert Glam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Groupuscule. Groupuscule is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we had a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. For the final time tonight, we introduce Texas Cryptid Hunter Michael Mays. We've had a great show with him tonight so far, and we're going to shift gears from Sasquatch to the Black Panthers. And this is a creature that is not supposed to exist, yet people all over Texas are reporting sightings of this big hairy cat. Michael, welcome back.
Thank you, Dave. Appreciate it.
Not a problem. All right. You are also known for being one of the main trackers of these encounters with these black cats. Tell us about them.
Well, growing up in East Texas, a black panther was not considered anything all that unusual. It was talked about a lot. Now, every time you heard some weird noise out in the woods, people always said it was a panther. Now, no doubt a lot of that was misidentification, but I mean, it was just the reference to panthers was was very common. And while the word panther is used to describe a mountain lion by a lot of folks in Texas and most of the South, people differentiate between a mountain lion or a cougar and a panther. In their mind, it's two different things. And so when you hear somebody talking about a panther in Texas, it is almost without exception, they're talking about a black cat. And you need to look no further proof of this than the Carolina Panther football team. The mascot's a big black snarling panther, and any team that uses a cougar for a mascot, it's the honey-colored blonde, animal that everyone's familiar with. So growing up, it was just another animal in the woods. It was not common, but it was not considered anything all that unusual either. It wasn't until I was well into my adult years that I discovered that there was no such thing as Black Panther according to mainstream science. The big black cats you've seen in the movies are either melanistic leopards, which are Asian or African cats, or melanistic jaguars, which are, they're New World cats, but mainly Central America and South America. They were once native to North America. They pretty much been hunted out. There's still some sightings of jaguars in Arizona and New Mexico on occasion, but pretty rare these days. So there is no species of cat that is a black panther.
So what are people seeing?
Well, that's the question. The way this really caught fire for me is I was writing the Texas Cryptid Hunter blog, and as we've been discussing, I'm heavily into looking into the Wood Ape mystery, the Bigfoot mystery, trying to get to the bottom of it. But, I've got a wide range of interest, and any mystery of the natural world intrigues me. And this is one that also intrigued me. And so I wrote a post on the blog about a few Black Panther sightings that I had read about in the news. And my inbox just exploded with people talking about what they had seen and their encounters and their visuals of these animals. And it is by far the most popular topic that I talk about on the blog. And I would take a lot of these reports, and the most interesting ones, the most credible sounding ones, I would talk to the folks and try to get a little more detail, drill in, and then I would do another post based on their accounts, and that would lead to more correspondence with more people, and this just snowballed on me. And after several years, I just thought, I really ought to do something with all these reports. I wasn't quite sure what, but I didn't feel like the blog was adequate, so I decided to write a book on the topic. But that's how the whole thing started, and how it led to the book, and that's the story.
So with these cats, how often are they being sighted?
Again, I wouldn't say it's a common everyday thing, but I get at least a handful of reports per month. Now, in the early days, I would get 3 or 4 a week. I think it has slowed down. I think it's a natural thing for it to have slowed down now over the years. Because, that first post, we're going back almost 10 years now. So a lot of the reports I got were, historic in nature. Somebody, when I was a kid, this happened, or 10 years ago when I was out on the deer lease, I saw one. And so now I think the people who are aware of me and the blog, who had a backstory, who wanted to share it with somebody, they have. So what I'm seeing now more contemporary, current, more recent events, as opposed to a lot of the historic encounter reports like I got in the early days.
Well, what kind of cats are normalized and called Texas home?
Okay, well, that's a great question, and I call them the suspects. We do have mountain lions in Texas. They are mainly in the western, far west Texas and deep south Texas, although they are creeping back to the east. Now, the people in the east will tell you they've never been completely gone, but they got pretty rare. Mountain lions are certainly the right size. They're the right size and weight of what's being reported. They've got the big long tail, like the witnesses all claim to see. The problem is they're not black, and there's never been a documented black mountain lion in all these years, where they've been in zoos and circuses and cat, big cat sanctuaries and name it. There's never been one documented in the wild or through breeding in captive circumstances. It is generally not thought that they have the genetics for melanism, which is just a genetic condition that makes an animal black. If you think about it, most of the cats in the world that can be melanistic are either striped or spotted, and the cougars, although they are spotted when they're very, very young, they don't carry that into adulthood, and so because of that, they're not thought to be, that's the problem with that theory. Right size, right weight, long tail, wrong color. Jaguars are the right size, and they are native to Texas, but there's not been a confirmed sighting in Texas since, I believe, the 40s. They were just hunted out. Jaguars were once coast to coast. They found fossils of jaguars as far north and west as Washington State, and as far east as Tennessee. And they were once just all over the place. And Texas was no exception. So they are native to Texas, but they're just not around much anymore. They can be melanistic, but they are, the melanistic specimens are thought to be 10% will be about the highest estimate you ever hear anyone go. It's more typically in that probably 5%, 3 to 5%. But because they're the right size and because they can be black, they have to be considered. And one interesting thing that I found out researching for the book was melanism in jaguars is a dominant trait. So if you have a population that's kind of a remnant or a relic population that's kind of cut off from a larger breeding population, if there are one or two melanistic cats in that group, that being the dominant trait, it's not going to be long before most of those cats are black. So that could explain at least some of the sightings. There is a smaller cat in Texas. It's called a jaguarundi, which most people have never even heard of. It's a small wild cat. It's kind of odd looking. It almost has a weasel or an otter-like appearance. Its tail is as long as its body. And while most of them aren't a whole lot bigger than a house cat, typical house cat, they can be bigger, and they have this exceptionally long tail and these long bodies, and so they can kind of give the appearance that they're bigger than an average cat, and they're unfamiliar looking, and someone sees it and they think, well, that's not a regular cat. So their mind jumps to that panther identification. They come in a couple of different colors, but one of them is a dark gray or black phase. And since most people aren't familiar with them, they want to put some kind of label on it. So I think that could account for some, but they're just not big enough to account for most of the reports I get. You know, most people are reporting an animal 100 pounds, 125, 50 pounds. They compare them to their, you know, it was the size of my Labrador Retriever or my German Shepherd, you know, and these are big dogs, you know, so if they're even close, if they're even in the ballpark, you know, even if they're saying it was 150 pounds and they're off by half, you're still looking at an 80-pound cat. That's not a Jaguarundi, that's not a house cat. So there's something bigger going on there. But those are your three main suspects, I would say.
But Texas also has a lot of owners of wild animals: tigers, lions, jaguars, leopards, cheetahs, you name it. And there's a lot of these animals who are just let loose in the wild because their owners, you know.
Yeah. There's, you know, and again, and that's one of the topics I've discussed in the book was, you know, the exotic pet trade. And of course, the whole Tiger King documentary really shone a light on that as well. A couple of things about it, though. While escaped exotics could account for a handful of sightings, I don't think enough have escaped and they're in close enough proximity where they could form breeding populations where generations of people are going to be seeing them, if that makes sense. A lot of these cats that have been kept in captivity like that have lost their ability to hunt. They've never learned how to hunt, to take care of themselves in the wild. There was a case I found when I was researching the book. It was a tiger, the guy in Arkansas, and this thing was eating him out of house and home, and he just couldn't afford it, so he didn't have the heart to kill it. He thought he was doing a nice thing. He took it 50 miles away and dumped it in the woods, which is just a totally idiotic thing to do, but he did. He drove home. I think it was 3 mornings later, he came outside and the thing is laying on his porch. You know, it came back because it didn't know what to do. So while an escaped exotic, I don't doubt that could be the genesis of some reports, I just don't think enough of them have escaped and survived long enough to breed and be responsible for these things over the whole American South. And on top of that, the crown jewels of the exotic cat trade are tigers and African lions. The leopards would be third, and jaguars are way down the list. And so it's it may be a piece of the puzzle, but I don't think it's a big enough one to explain the whole thing.
Michael Mays is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We've got him for another 6 minutes here. In regards to these cats, have they attacked anybody?
I have not come across and the key word here is credible, a credible attack. I've had people who've been charged and the animal has veered off. I've had people claim that they were growled at and this thing, you know, was creeping up on them. They just happened to turn and see it. They felt like it was about to spring on them, but when it was seen, it turned and ran off. But I've not come across a case where one has attacked anybody. Now, I came across some historical accounts back around, in the early 1900s in East Texas. There's little town in East Texas, was where Lumberton, Texas is now. A couple of guys working on the railroad were coming home, and according to the story, they were attacked by a Black Panther, and they managed to stand back to back with a couple of big sticks and discourage it enough. Finally, it gave up and went away. There's some other newspaper accounts of some people that were killed historically, but nothing of what you'd call a contemporary account, at least not one that's credible. There was a guy in Alabama a few years ago claimed to have been torn up pretty good by one, but I think his story kind of fell apart under scrutiny. So haven't heard much about it, which that also kind of works against the jaguar theory in a way, because those cats are much feared in South America and in Central America. And you'd think one somewhere at some point, if they were around much at all, would have been unable to help itself, found a person off by itself. But haven't heard that yet.
Corey is asking, in regards to this, is El Chupacabra really a Black Panther?
Well, it's as good a theory as any. Now, that's not the story. And the whole Chupacabra thing is kind of interesting because the appearance of it has kind of morphed from the original story that came out of Puerto Rico with a lot of the with kind of the Latin American immigration into the U.S. and brought the story with them. In Puerto Rico, the original stories were of this kind of weird alien-looking reptilian thing with claws and spikes on its back and these big eyes. And now in Texas now, what people are calling a chupacabra is this kind of this dark-skinned, hairless, dog-like animal. Now, whatever that thing is, they're real. I mean, there's a lady down in South Texas that shot one and has it stuffed, and you can go down and look at it yourself. A lot of people say they're just coyotes with mange, or they've lost their hair. I have seen what a local news team would call a chupacabra, on the 6 or 10 o'clock news in the Sam Houston National Forest. It was clearly a coyote that was sick. It had sarcoptic mange, and it was hairless. It had kind of this wrinkly, elephant-looking skin to it. It was moving very sluggishly, very slowly. It was clearly a sick animal. But this is what. If we'd taken its picture and sent it to the newspaper, it would have been chupacabra sighting, would have been the headline, So, so I don't know. I don't know if that can explain, again, it may be part of the puzzle. I could see where a larger canine of some kind in that condition could be mistaken for a gray or black cat at a distance, I suppose. But I don't think it would explain the whole thing, the whole phenomenon. I think more than likely it's a combination of all of the above.
We've got about 90 seconds left with you tonight. And I want to say a big thank you for you coming on Spaced Out Radio and breaking down a lot of your Sasquatch research, number one. But number two, I would say, talking about the Black Panther. Where can people find more information on your work?
Well, the blog is just, you can just do a search for Texas Cryptid Hunter blog, but it's texascryptidhunter.blogspot.com. I haven't been as active on it lately. I'm going to try to get back to it here with a vengeance. I've been working on some books and book projects and things like that. Have taken the bulk of my time, but you can go there. My personal website is michaelcmays.com, you can go to the NAWAC site, and that's woodape.org. You can read that Tag 7 paper. We have another great paper that sums up 4 years of research called the Washita Project Monograph. Summarizes 4 years of research in Area X. Some stories that are fascinating and give you the goosebumps too. So it's a good read. And if you want to read about the Black Panthers, the book is called Shadow Cats, the Black Panthers of North America. And you can contact me if you'd like a copy of that, or, Amazon or Barnes & Noble, all the...
I appreciate that. Michael, thank you for coming on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Coming up next, we have the SOR Newswire and the Thought of the Day. Stay tuned. More Spaced Out Radio coming up. Buddy, let's make sure this isn't 3.5 years again, okay?
Well, that's your call, my friend, but absolutely, I'd love to come back.
Oh, yeah, we'd love to have you. Love to have you. Corrins, I know you're listening. Make sure we put him in the rotation. Solid show tonight. Let's give him a round of applause on YouTube, everybody. Give Michael Mays a round of applause. Everybody's calling you an awesome guest tonight. Good job, people.
Well, I was sober, so that's something.
Well, yeah, after Friday night, to have a sober guest tonight to kick off the week, you pretty much hit a home run with that one right there.
That's good. That's kind of guy's easy to follow. So
exactly.
That's good.
All right, buddy. You take care. Thank you so much for your time, okay?
Thank you. Have a good one.
We'll talk soon. Good night.
Okay, bye-bye.
Solid show. Solid show. That's good stuff right there. I like him. Good dude. The problem that we have with a lot of the guests is and Corey will realize this, is over time when you are doing this show, sometimes you get really, really good guests and they get lost in the shuffle with everything. And I would say that was my fault. That was one that was definitely lost in the shuffle. Definitely. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's see where we are. All right. Got that. Well, that's 6. I'm a legend. Oh, you're way too kind. No, the only legend around here is Gutter Gawker. That dude is a legend. He's good people. Oh, you got a Team Stump tank top. We need a picture of that. We totally need a picture of that, Jules. I want a picture of that one. Oh, hey, how do you guys like the How do you like the 1 minute less in commercials? Have you noticed? Has it been noticeable? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We got 1 minute here. Thanks, little Deborah. Little Deborah. Little Deborah. Little Deborah. Little Deborah. Deborah Little. Hey, that works. Hey, Ross. How you doing, man? Hey, there's Desert Clam. He sets the password. Good old Jeffy Gear. Bigfoot trip was awesome.
The Moose Vancouver.
If you go on Twitter or Instagram, I put some pictures. Caught a beautiful print of a black bear and just this massive wolf print. It was awesome. Here we go, everyone. Let's kick off the news. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. Thank you so much for joining us. I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you, including rocking out to Bumblefoot and reading up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire. Follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio for the show, and my personal handle at Dave Scott SOR. Speaking of the news, oh yeah, let's get to it, shall we? The news is always changing, which is why we bring you the SOR Newswire at the back end of every show, where we get to the weird, the strange, the wacky, and sometimes out of this world. You know, for centuries, scientists have explored the universe for cosmic clues as to whether or not we are alone in the universe. Now, new estimates suggest that there could indeed be other active civilizations out there, but not many. The Drake equation, introduced in the 1960s by astronomer Frank Drake, is a formula many researchers use to estimate the probability that we might communicate with extraterrestrial civilizations in our galaxy, the Milky Way. Drake's 7 key variables, which range from how many habitable planets, exoplanets, there are in the galaxy, to the amount of time over which intelligent life takes shape, are almost impossible to pin down. The formula acts more like a framework for the probability of finding life. Previous estimates have ranged from 0 to over 1 billion civilizations. Now, a pair of researchers from the University of Nottingham in the United Kingdom, working under the assumption it takes the same amount of time for life to evolve in the distant reaches of the galaxy as it did right here at home, have narrowed down that estimate to just 36 extraterrestrial civilizations. There should be at least a few dozen active civilizations in our galaxy, under the assumption that it takes 5 billion years for intelligent life to form on other planets as on Earth, astrophysicist Christopher Conservancy explained. The team dubbed this calculation the astrobiological Copernican limit. Using the calculator as a guidepost, calculation that is, the scientists charted multiple scenarios. One end of the spectrum is a weak scenario where it takes life no more than 5 billion years to form. And on the other end, there's a strong scenario where it takes life intelligently between 4.5 and 5.5 billion years to blossom. According to the scientists' calculations for this strong scenario, there should be anywhere between 4 and 211 complex civilizations that have the ability to send signals out into the universe, with 36 being the most likely. The closest of these complex civilizations ought to be around 17,000 light years away from Earth, orbiting a low-mass M-type dwarf star. But this doesn't bode well for our chances of connecting with distant extraterrestrials. Communicating over these distances is impossible with today's technology. Not everyone buys the analysis, though. No. Well, some are even thinking it's skeptical. Oliver Shortall of the University of Cambridge says the organization that needs more factors needs to be considered, such as how exactly life formed on Earth, before taking the new findings as fact. So what could this mean for the future of life on Earth? The quest for life elsewhere in the universe will reveal insight into our own fate. If we can find that intelligent life is common, then this would reveal our civilization could exist for much longer than a few hundred years. Alternatively, if we find that there are no active civilizations in our galaxy, it is a bad sign for our own long-term existence. Oh, such negative Nancy's. Negative Nancy's. Authorities in Switzerland are trying to track down the owner of $190,000 worth of gold bars that were left behind on a train. The local prosecutor's office in Lucerne said approximately 190 grand worth of gold bars were found left behind after the passengers left a Swiss Federal Railways train that arrived in the city of St. Gallen. Officials said that the gold was found in October of 2019, but they are now appealing to the public for information after months of investigating failed to determine the origins of the precious metals. The prosecutor's office said the owner of the gold is being given 5 years to come forward. How many people are going to come forward on that? Thousands. Thousands. How do you recognize it? Well, what did it look like? It looked like a gold bar. Well, it's yours. Next person comes in. No, mine looked like a gold bar. It's yours too. My goodness. How are they going to break this up? I have no idea. An unusual pair of eyeglasses, to be nearly 300 years old, were rescued from a New Zealand landfill. Well, good thing that they were found, too, because they went on auction, and they were auctioned online for more than $5,000. The Tip Shop, a store operated by the Wellington City Council for items that would have otherwise ended up in the South Hill landfill, said the glasses, a style known as Martin's Margins, were rescued from the trash and listed by the store on the auction site Trade Me. A last-minute bidding war brought the final price to $5,282 just before the auction ended Sunday night. Martin's Margins were designed by optician Benjamin Martin in 1756. The unusual thick-framed look of the glasses results from Martin's belief that exposure to sunlight would cause damage to the eyeglass lenses. The Tip Shop said no maker's mark could be identified on the frames, so it was unclear whether the glasses sold in Sunday's auctions were actually made by Martin himself. The winning bid, Aaron Smiley, said he brought the glasses as a tribute to his partner Helen Hammond, who died in May 28th after a fight with cancer. Smiley said he and Hammond would often use FaceTime to video chat, and the glasses reminded him of a screenshot he kept showing Hammond using a filter that gave her round glasses and whiskers. I like quirky stuff anyways, and that appealed to me, but it was more the emotional side. I guess I just got carried away with the auction, Smiley said. Good for him. He's allowed to do that after losing his partner. Good for him. Gone with the Wind is to be restored to the HBO Max streaming platform after it was abruptly pulled from service last week after coming under criticism for romanticizing slavery amid a nationwide reevaluation of cultural values. But when the film finally returns, it will be accompanied by an introduction from Jacqueline Stewart, a professor in the Department of Cinema and Media Studies at the University of Chicago, who will explain the historical context of the 1939 1939 Civil War epic. The film, starring Clark Gable as Rhett Butler and Vivian Leigh as Scarlett O'Hara, is based on a novel written in 1936 by Margaret Mitchell. It tells the story of a turbulent romance during the Civil War and Reconstruction period. Hattie McDaniel won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress for her role as Mamian in the film, becoming the first African American to win an Oscar. In recent years, the film has been viewed through more critical lenses, with many questioning whether a film that glosses over the horrors of slavery should still be shown in today's society. Still the highest grossing film in history when adjusted for inflation, Gone with the Wind continues to have a profound impact on the ways mainstream audiences visualize the antebellum South and the Reconstruction period that followed the Civil War. Jacqueline Stewart, the host of Silent Sunday Nights on Turner Classic Movies, wrote this piece in CNN. Stewart is to provide some commentary on the film and give viewers historical context when they finally return it to HBO. Moreover, the classic films we showcase on Turner Classic Movies have played a major role in perpetuating the racist beliefs that devalue black lives and normalize the use of excessive force against black people. Stewart suggested that people should still be able to watch Gone with the Wind in order to analyze it. Right now, people are turning to movies for racial re-education, and the top-selling books on Amazon are about anti-racism and racial inequality. If people are going to do their homework, we may be poised to have our most informed, honest, and productive national conversations yet about black lives on and off the screen. In light of the killing of George Floyd, the debate has gained added power. The most recent debate over the film kicked off last Monday when John Ridley, screenwriter for 12 Years a Slave, wrote in the LA Times that the film should be potentially removed. It doesn't just fall short with regard to representation, he wrote. It's a film that glorifies the antebellum South. It is a film that, when it is not ignoring the horrors of slavery, pauses only to perpetuate some of the most painful stereotypes of people of color. It is a film that, as part of the narrative of the lost cause, romanticizes the Confederacy in a way that continues to give legitimacy to the notion that the secessionist movement was something more or better or more noble than what it was, a bloody insurrection to maintain the right to own, sell, and buy human beings. The film was controversial from the beginning. African-American film critic Earl J. Morris wrote for a black Pittsburgh Courier newspaper, urged readers to write the Motion Picture Producers Association, and demand that the N-word be removed from the script because it featured heavily in the novel. Let's move on here. A northern Michigan beer company has enlisted the help of a seaplane to make 6 special deliveries to families on waterfront properties. Steve Smith, a.k.a. Aqua Bear, took off in his seaplane Saturday morning with Joe Short, owner and founder of Short's Brewing Company, to deliver 6 crates of beer to waterfront properties in Antrim County. Why? The Elk Rapids-based brewery offered a limited run of seaplane deliveries online, and the slots quickly sold out. Smith and Short met at a fundraising event in 2018 and teamed up to film a water skiing promo later that year. Short said Smith pitched him the idea of using the plane to bolster the brewery's delivery service, which began in March amid the COVID-19 pandemic. He likes to get his airplane out, flying around, and have fun bouncing around the lake, Short says. I was like, all right, this seems cool. Let's put it together. The pair's Saturday outing made an impression on their customers. This is a highlight of our summer. Absolutely. Delivery recipient Catherine Bryant said, to see a seaplane come in right to your front doorstep and deliver beer and hop off? I mean, this is just phenomenal. I want one. I think that would be cool. Although I don't have water by me, except a little creek. I don't think a seaplane could land on that. A fisherman off the coast of Prince Edward Island reeled in an unusual catch of the day, a large anchor he believes could be more than 100 years old. Matt Wall said he was fishing last week off the coast of Malpeque Harbor when he noticed that lobster traps he was attempting to haul in were stuck on an object at the bottom of the water. Wall and his crew quickly discovered the traps had been snagged on what appeared to be a large anchor. They attempted to bring the object up to their boat, but it slipped free of their line and plunged back into the depths. Wall said he marked the spot and had intended to return Tuesday with a diver to search for the object, but on Saturday, he finished fishing early and decided to make another attempt at landing the metal anchor. The fisherman said he was able to hook the anchor again, and this time succeeded in towing it back to the wharf, where the crew used a hoist to transfer it to pick up to Wall's pickup. He estimated the anchor could date to the 1800s, but it could be older, could be a little newer, he says. The metal itself, it's made in layers. It's not smooth like newer style anchors would be, and just the sheer size of it, no boats are using an anchor that size these days. Wall said he's going to have a simple sample of the metal from the anchor tested to determine its age, and he is consulting with experts to find out the object's story. It could be just off of any old ship that lost an anchor and no real story, but it could be off something cooler if we find out how old it is. I wonder if it's one of them anchors that was used by a UFO in the Shag Harbor incident, because Shag Harbor is right around the corner from PEI. Could be. When in doubt, aliens, people. When in doubt, aliens. 9 cows on a farm in Ireland were killed after they were struck by lightning during a heavy thunderstorm this weekend. The incident happened Sunday afternoon as heavy thunderstorms bore through Dunlicky, County Clare, located west of on the west coast of Ireland. The country's weather service had issued a weather alert after large parts of Ireland were struck by the thunderstorms and brought threats of torrential downpours, hail, and flash flooding. The Irish Examiner reported that a passerby was driving along when the person spotted a number of animals with their legs in the air. People who were in the area at the time of the storms moved through reported a lot of thunderstorm activity with several claps of thunder and plentiful lightning. The rain had poured down really heavily for about 20 minutes. A similar incident happened last year when 8 cows were struck and killed by lightning during a storm in Moneygall. Yeah, in the U.S., 2 giraffes at a Florida wildlife park were killed instantly last May when they were struck by lightning during a sudden storm in the area as they were out in the pasture. Lightning typically kills tall objects such as trees, or strikes tall objects such as trees and skyscrapers because their tops are closer to the base of the storm cloud. However, this does not always mean tall objects will be struck. It all depends on where the charges accumulate, according to the National Severe Storms Agency. Lightning can be striking the ground in an open field, even if a tree line is close by. Lightning, known as a bolt form of blue, can also strike as far away as 25 miles from a thunderstorm cloud, even when they appear to be clear skies. Yeah, poor cows. Poor cows. And finally, wildlife rescuers in Australia said a kangaroo is recovering after being hoisted from the bottom of a disused mine shaft. The 5 Freedoms Animal Rescue said a pair of boys who were walking near their home in Drummond North in Victoria discovered the marsupial trapped in a mine shaft that was about 23 feet deep. 5 Freedoms rescuer Manfred Zabiscus said it took about 90 minutes to hoist the 77-pound marsupial out of the hole. We got him out okay, but couldn't tell if he was injured. He was subdued and looking at us and clearly exhausted, Zabinska says. He wasn't little. I've had bigger, but I was glad to have plenty of helpers. The kangaroo is now recovering in a sanctuary. Zabinska said the rescue highlights the need for government action to protect wildlife from falling into old mine shafts. There are so many of these dangerous mine shafts for our wildlife. You can imagine suffering they go through if they fall into one. I would call on the government to look at options to make these mine shafts safer. I think at least wildlife-proof fencing around the shafts would be a simple, cheap, and effective way to safeguard them. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. Today's Thought of the Day is as follows. Give me a reason why you believe in cryptids like fairies, Bigfoot, Chupacabra, and Dogman. Start off with Marty. Why wouldn't they be real? 100 years ago, the African gorilla was considered a cryptid, and the coelacanth was believed extinct for 60 million years until one was caught in 1938. Who knows what we will be confirming as the next living species? John. If they aren't, I would bloody well like to know who the hell I've been having breakfast with all these years. Shanna. They just are, Dave. Hashtag Monday Sass. Graham. I believe the sighting accounts made by hundreds of encounter folk, but I have seen a dryad, a diminutive little being. I am still not sure about Dogman, though. Rahonda. Come to the ER any Saturday night. Hashtag you will believe. In all seriousness, there are way too many sightings to think otherwise. Quantes. If ghosts exist in an unseen dimension, then what else exists that is unseen? Twin Rose Brew. Too many reports for all of them to be made up. If only 1 out of every 100 is true, how could you explain it? It may not be the actual cryptid, but what is it if it is the 1%? That's a good point. Strong tweeting there. Very strong tweeting. All right. Let us move on, shall we? To the next round. All right. Here we go. Nikki. Oh, is this the right one? Yeah, there it is. Caden. Let's start with Caden. I believe in them because only a fraction of the world has been explored. The possibilities of anything is there. Nikki. Because I've experienced their energy and have psychically seen them. Corey. I have an open mind about these things because 19 years ago I laid eyes on the spirit of a little girl about 5 to 10 minutes worth of staring. Preston. Cryptozoology encompasses modern-day mythology. Mythology is basically our subconscious fears and curiosity mixed together. Tim. Never seen, but anything is possible. The vast reaches of unexplored forest in Canada can house the unknown, and the unknown realms of science can be hidden from our little-used brains. Kimberly. I think the energy was present in our 3D world and that our collective consciousness created these creatures and brought them to life. Denise. Because people are ignorant. There are a lot of beautiful things out that I sure as hell know none of them had anything to do with it. Okay. Shanna. I am definitely open to the Fae, mostly because of the experiences I've had with what I believe to be Fae. Cable Guy Matt. I believe people when they say they saw something. Gary, I have enlightening senses, and it has given me the ability to see the energy in many different forms. Filth. There are too many unconnected people across both time and physical space for all of them to be making it up. Venus. I used to have an elf that would run around my bed at night when I was a child. I think that qualifies as having no choice but to believe. Thank you to everybody participating in today's Thought of the Day. We will do it all again tomorrow. Big thank you to... first off, we'll put the new Thought of the Day question tomorrow on our Facebook and Twitter pages. Big thank you to Captain Shirk for the SOR Newswire, which can be found on our website. And, of course, Michael Mays coming in talking some Texas cryptids. That's always fun. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thaw rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Special thanks to everybody in our chat rooms on Spreaker, YouTube, LGAB, Revolution Radio, Facebook, the SOR Space Travelers Club at our website, and to all the snarkers and snarkettes at hashtag Spaced Out Radio on Twitter. You were very, very good tonight.
I know you're out there somewhere.
Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. we need you to take us home. Remember, everybody, the Woo train may have parked for the night, but tomorrow we will launch once again. Your tickets never expire. Your seats are always available, and there's always room for more. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. Good night. That's a good show, everybody. That's a good show. That's a good show. Give yourselves a round of applause. Great show out there tonight, everyone. Great show. You should be proud. We all did well tonight. We all did well for tonight. Oh. Watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Yeah. All right, let's move here. Let's go to dashboard. But I am keeping my shirt on. You can't see me. I'm camouflaged right now. All right, while this is downloading, I'll be right back. It's just downloading a lot faster than I thought it would. He's almost done already. Weird. I am tired tonight, and I slept a lot this weekend. Oh, man. I got 11 hours sleep Saturday into Sunday morning. 9.5 hours sleep last night. What the hell am I doing? I never sleep that much. Let's go here. All right. All right, time to edit this bitch up. Cut that. Where's my KZAX file? There it is. Who got blocked for farting? Hi, April, May, June. How are you? Good night, Lee A. Much love, sister. Did Consummate Grandmaster really break wind in the chat room? Because that is kind of uncool if he did. Just saying. Nice. Nice. Hey, Chemical Summer, how you doing? Good morning to you, man. Good morning. Yes, we are winding things down here, but I'm just editing the radio show right now. Almost time to start downloading. All right, pick your six digits. It's that time of night again for the verification code. We're almost there, people. Get your codes in. Tonight's verification code is 737-549. 737-549. Use it wisely, space travelers. Excuse me. All right, we are downloading. Some high quality downloading going on right now, people. I'll be right back, people. Don't move. Don't move. Don't move. All right. See how long this download is going to go here. Mm-hmm. So you guys all have a good weekend, or what? I should show you this. This was the amazing wolf track we found. Let me see if I'm getting that correct here. Hold on. It's my son's handprint next to it. Looks pretty cool. It's so clear. Yeah, it was a real beauty, man. Real beauty. The picture was my son's hand beside a wolf picture. Or a wolf print, pardon me. Thanks, Walter. Appreciate that. All right, the one is done. It was Bigfoot and Black Cats with Michael Mays. All right, everybody. Our downloading is done. I'm very tired today. Very tired. So give me a little bit here, and we'll hopefully get some energy where I can spring up tomorrow and feel a little bit more